Hello and welcome to my video series on how to tank. I'm Judge Vincent and today we will talk about mitigation and smoothing. First of all, let's talk about mitigation. So what is mitigation exactly? Well, the basic idea is you are using abilities to survive the heavy hits of mobs or bosses. If done correctly, it gives your healer enough time to keep you up and keeps the damage predictable. Important, however, is smoothing means you want to reduce the unmitigated hits as much as possible, not to take any damage at all, because that won't be possible. Overall, you will use your mitigation tools for smoothing. Not every boss has some big hit you will have to mitigate, so you will just pretty much smooth the damage you take. Of course, there are exceptions, as of 6.2 Killrock Deadeye comes to mind, uses the ability Shred Armor for example. Normally, you will be able to read about those kinds of abilities in guides or the dungeon journal. I recommend a timer like Deadly Boss Mods or Bigwigs to track abilities like these and time your mitigation accordingly. An important note, however, is you will want to smooth the rest of the fight to the best of your abilities. This is just another thing you will have to keep in mind on fights like these. This is not easy to balance, but as always, practice is always the way to go to become a great tank. I'd recommend starting slow. Learn your rotational mitigation on a training dummy and work your way up through heroics and mythic dungeons. Or a very patient raid. LFR is not recommended. You will feel more confident after a while, but always keep in mind, you want to improve yourself all the time. There's always something you can improve. Let's overview the most important abilities for mitigation and smoothing. Let's start with the first one, the Warrior. Shield block for physical mitigation. This is pretty much your main thing. You will use your shield barrier and demorizing shot to smooth the damage in between those shield blocks. Next up, the Guardian Druid. Savage defense and bristling fur have spec'd as mitigation. As smoothing tools, Frenzied Regen, Barkskin, Cenarian Ward and Pulverize if you spect. Death Knight. Death Strike for reactionary healing and the Absorb from Blood Shield for mitigation. This acts like a semi-block, by the way. You will have to use Rune Tap, Defile, Dancing Rune Weapon and Vampiric Blood to cover the time in between your Rune cooldowns. I recommend using Blood Tap to improve your Death Strike coverage. Next up, the Protection Paladin. Shield of the Righteous is your bread and butter physical mitigation. You will also have to weave into your rotation Sacred Shield, Divine Protections and talents like Holy Avenger or Divine Purpose for smoothing. And the last one is the Brewmaster Monk. Stagger is your main mitigation and passive. That means Purifying Brew is your tool to keep Stagger from killing you outright. As of smoothing, Blackout Kick provides you with Shuffle. Shuffle should always be active in the background. Dampen Harm, Guard, Elusive Brew and Expel Harm as a reactionary heal, and Cheek Generator. Those abilities can of course change over the next expansions, but you get the gist of it. You'll be encountering mostly physically hitting mobs and bosses, so your physical mitigation is your bread and butter. Heals, however, are more reactionary, and in most cases not necessarily the best choice if you have physical mitigation available to you. Most of the time, if you encounter a dip in your HP, your first instinct will be to heal up, especially if you are not as experienced yet. This is a trap. Keep in mind, you are using your resources to react to damage at that point and not proactive to decrease the damage you take, which is pretty much our job as tank. You will probably fall behind later, because you don't have your mitigation available afterwards. That of course doesn't mean never heal ever, just be mindful of how you spend your resources. Don't be scared though, it sounds like a really intimidating topic, but as I said earlier, everything gets easier with time and practice. Mitigation is a huge topic and this scratches pretty much only the surface. I hope you have learned something from this video and as always, thank you very much for watching.